Yes, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to explain why you might want to reconsider being a digital nomad. I wish 4 or 5 years ago, when I quit my job and went traveling the world, that someone told me what I had to think about before moving to a different city or moving to a different country, because there's a lot of things that you don't quite think about before you take that leap. So in today's video, I'm going to explain what those things are. But before I do, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, because it's really going to help me with the algorithm and get this content out to the people that need it most. So the first thing that you have to consider before you become a digital nomad is that when you're trying to pick what kind of city or country that you want to go and live in, if you run an online business or if your income depends on having access to the internet, you need to make sure that wherever you go has very good internet connection speeds and accessibility. Now, this is one of the reasons why I didn't like living in Bali, because there's a lot of places that do not offer very good connection speeds. Now, it's changed since I was living in Bali. This was before COVID, but even now when I go back, I have noticed that the internet connection speed is very different compared to a place like Thailand, for example. So I can go to almost any coffee shop or almost any Airbnb and the connection speed is really good. And especially for a business that I run where I have to upload and download videos a lot of the time. You know, my business deals with dozens of clients and, hundreds of videos that we have to upload, download every day. I've got to review them. I've got to deal with my staff. So for me, it's super important that I have a very good internet connection. And if I don't, I can't get my work done. And it basically means I'm wasting my time whilst I am away. So the first thing that you have to consider before you become a digital nomad is the connection speed. Make sure you are choosing locations where you have access to good internet and the speed of that internet is good. You don't want to have dropouts or anything like that, because it can be really frustrating and it could mean the difference between you staying in a place for longer and having to go back home because you've run out of money. The second thing that you might want to consider before you become a digital nomad, before you start working online and traveling the world, is that when you select your living arrangement or your living location, that the place you're able to work from has a workspace. Okay, now this kind of depends on how you're making your money online. It might just be suitable for you to go and work in coffee shops or to go to workspaces. But if you run an agency or if you run a business where it requires you to sell, then you might want to have a place where you can actually do the selling, right? You need to have somewhere quiet. You're not exactly going to be able to do a sales call in a coffee shop. And some workspaces don't really have areas where you can conduct those sales calls. You have to book those times out. So it depends on your situation. Like if you're getting a lot of sales appointments booked in your calendar, you're not going to want to then go to the workspace and have to book in all those time slots. Plus, you might not even be able to get those time slots. So it can really create some kind of chaos around your business, around your life. So figuring out where you're going to stay is super important, and looking for Airbnbs or living situations where you do have a desk or a workspace. And I find that this is one of the hardest things about traveling, especially if you are traveling to lots of locations in a short period of time. But it is one of the most important things, especially if you're running an agency or a business that requires you to sell. All right, next up, distractions. The reason you become a digital nomad, the reason why you're working online, is because you want to go and travel. You want to see the world. You want to meet new people. You want to experience new places. You want to eat different food, go to different restaurants, go to new clubs and events and parties. I know exactly what it feels like. This is the reason why I started a virtual business or an online business. But the fact is, you also do need to work, right? So you have to be able to balance your time between actually being focused and doing work and trying to eliminate those distractions. And when it comes to distractions, you're going to be distracted in a variety of different ways. The new people you meet are going to be asking you to go out and do things. You're going to want to be a tourist at times and go and experience different things because you're probably only in that location, that country, that city for a short period of time. The other thing you have to worry about as well is, because there's just so many options, it's going to burn your energy. So not only do you have to worry about your business, you also have to figure out the living situations because you're moving around a lot. When you move to a new location, you've got to find where you're going to eat in that location. You've got to find new gyms. There's a lot of distractions that is going to pull you away from your business and ultimately pull you away from making money that's going to allow you to stay in that location. So being able to balance your time between your business and doing what is right and balancing it with the fun, the distracting stuff, is super, super important. What I tend to do is I tend to stick to a routine. Even when I'm abroad, Monday to Friday, I'll be working on my business, maybe go out in the evening for dinner. And then on the weekends is when I go out and party and go and enjoy life and be a tourist and go to events and do my networking. Again, it depends on the type of business you operate, but that's the way I do it. And being able to eliminate those distractions is super important. Another thing that you should probably consider before you become a digital nomad is that minimalism is key. You're not going to be able to take a whole lot of luggage with you. Typically, when I go abroad, I'll take one big suitcase and I'll just move around with one big suitcase and like a big pack for like my hand luggage with my laptop in there. Now, if you're going away for a month or two, that's not really a big deal. But if you intend to go away for 5, 6, 7 months or a year, typically you're going to have to live like a minimalist, right? You don't really want to have too much going on at home. There's no point paying for rent at home or paying for a property at home that you're not using. There's no point having a car that you're spending a lot of money on. I sold my Jaguar F-Type before I started to go and travel around the world because I got it during the height of COVID. I got a really good deal on it. But then once the gates opened and the Australian government allowed us to travel, the first thing I wanted to do was go to Asia. So I sold my car. And because I was renting at the time, I could easily get out of my lease. So you definitely don't want to have things holding you in place, and you just have to realize that when you're traveling around, you're gonna have to do it in a minimalist way. So just take the bare necessities. And to be perfectly fair, this is actually the life that I prefer living. I don't like having a lot of stuff and materialistic items. I believe it clutters my mind. It takes energy away from me or away from my business and into things that could hold me back. So it could be a positive, it could be a negative. It just depends on you, but it's something to consider. And finally, the last thing that you have to consider before being a digital nomad or becoming a digital nomad is the energy drain of planning. So let's say you're just about to go on your first trip. Perhaps you're going to go and live in Thailand or Bali or Colombia or something like that. You firstly have to figure out where you're going to stay, how long you're going to stay for, what food options are around, right? So if you're going to be a digital nomad, it's very important that you stay healthy and fit. So what good food is around? Is the food accessible? Is there a gym nearby? What gym options are there? Are they good gyms? So these are all things that you have to consider. Now, if you have a base, it's okay because you can go to one spot and you might be there for a few months and you don't have to worry too much or spend too much energy on figuring out, all this stuff that typically you don't think about when you're at home because you've been living, in your home country or your home city for X amount of time. You already understand and know where everything is. When you move somewhere new, you've got to figure everything out. Where are you going to get a haircut? What kind of places are you going to go to meet new people? What kind of hobbies are there that you can take part in? So what I typically like to do is select 1 or 2 places and I just like to stay there for a longer period of time. If I'm moving around a lot, it takes energy away from me, away from my business. I don't get to experience and integrate myself into the community and the culture as much as if I was, moving every few weeks. I definitely understand people that want to move around a lot, but it's going to take that time and energy away from you and your business. And ultimately you want to build a business or build an income that sustains you for a long period of time. So unless you are at that point, stay in one place, focus on one place, use it as a base and move around. So recently I was just living in Phuket for the last 6 months, and from there I'd just move over to Bangkok, or I could go to Koh Samui, I could go to Bali, right, and I can even go back to home to Australia because it's nice and close. So I can use Phuket as my base, and from there, I've got everything around me and I can move around and do short trips elsewhere if I need to give myself a break for fun, right? So that's something to consider. If you're thinking about being a digital nomad, guys, let me know in the comments below. There's a whole bunch of different things that you need to consider. Perhaps I've missed something in this video. I wanted to keep it nice and short. It's just gone over 10 minutes. So yeah, let me know, guys, if you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one.